Okay. Okay, after a break, so US they found a solution by the private sector. But now how about Europe? Of course, we also know the European Union with different member states with different systems of, give example, real estate law, different system of registrations. But now, I can go to the English version of Funda and search for a nice house in France. And maybe I can also get a mortgage from a German bank. It's better. It's really working like that. The answer is no. It's a common European real estate market. Of course, it's also one of the things that the European Union, the European Commission really wants to stimulate. And they were writing about this for 40 years. And it really didn't develop until now because one of the problems is transparency of mortgage products. Every country has its own tradition. Mortgage banks might want to have a look over the border, but they're used to their own system, they're familiar with their own national system. The whole thing is transparency of the information from national land registries, because I want to know if the seller is really the owner. And the bank wants to know if they are going really to get a mortgage with real estate that person who knocks at the door of your bank wants to buy. There's also a problem because everything is on national level, not on European level. We're working on it, but still working on it. So, starting point is still that we have different systems. And because we have different systems, I keep repeating it, the title registration on one hand, registration of deeds on the other hand, but remember that nice picture from that Zevenberg and approval paper. And even when we have a topology, two main systems, still they offer not the same. One registration of deeds is not the same as the other. The Dutch system more different than the Belgian system or in France. So there is no uniform level of certainty concerning price and interest. Are actually reported all over Europe. Report of 2004. Afterwards, we had the crisis of 2008, so we're still working on it, but has no priority, certainly not in these times. But it's a question. And to make it clear, we made this picture. German wants to buy a house in France, and it looks like that the bank in the United Kingdom has the best interest rates, but in fact the answer with a big question mark, and also the bank itself answered with a question mark, because what does this mean? He doesn't know. The bank also doesn't know. This question I want to discuss with you. Should we go for the American system? What do you think? I think you already started a bit the discussion before the break. Is there a role for title insurance in Europe to solve this problem? What is your opinion? Security by the public sector or by the private sector? There's no wrong answer, so I think.
Public sector. Like there should be room for the public sector because they work in their own interest. They don't want to. payment invoices
Yeah.
and other invoices. So there's need to have the system and government will pay those. Yes, less.
Yeah, less. Okay. But you say, okay, this is a problem of individuals. So, oh yeah, the private sector can solve this.
Biggest trust in them to solve it.
Okay, so title insurance, welcome. It's the opinion of your co-students.
Also, the others are online, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can also talk. Chrysante is online.
Yeah, Robert.
Oh, it is online. Is there any opinion from people online?
Yeah, I missed the previous part, so
Okay.
I'm not that sure. But you mean title insurance like by the bank or by the public, you said?
Yeah, title insurance means that you have to go to a company, an insurance company, and that's a pity you missed the first part. But the whole idea is that they will do title search. So this is a bit the role that you find in other countries done by, for instance, a conveyancer or a notary. But what they do is they guarantee that you will get that the seller is really the owner, so that you get the real property as it is sold to you. So there is no forgery, no fraud, but also no unknown rights, restrictions, or responsibilities. So in fact, what they do, and that's based on a search on a copy of the public registers, that they guarantee your right. And if there is something wrong, they will pay you or pay your solicitor. But the security provided by the private sector.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there exists a type of insurance like that.
Yeah, not in Europe.
Not in Greece, and I don't know about the whole Europe.
But it was it is a kind of, now I'm thinking like an American, I would say it is a great solution we had. Think about a bit Trump. I miss him sometimes, very simple. We had a great solution. We, the government, we cannot offer the same security all over the US, but those great guys from title insurance, those big companies, they do it. Any American knows what he gets at the moment he pays for a title insurance policy. And also the bank knows. I think that's most important. The bank who provides the money to the buyer knows. So there's an insurance, there's a guarantee, but not by the public sector. So not by offering a torrents system, upgrading your registration of deeds. No, we leave it to the private sector. Would that be a solution for Greece? Just say Greek government.
I don't know what the Greek government did about it, but that would be a solution, because I think there are a lot of problems with the deeds and like the transfer of the deeds. So maybe that would be helpful. Yeah, I know of situations that you have to go back some generations to find the transfer of the deeds, and you have to do that on your own.
Yeah.
So that would be helpful, and no one gives you a guarantee that you will they will give you money if there's a problem with
So in fact what you say, because the system in Greece is not good, you can better invest in upgrading your system by the public sector, so by the government, because there is no starting level. So even the title insurance company cannot step in.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Also, when we go to the blockchain. Okay, thank you. Maybe Rohit.
Yes. Well, I think I do not think it's necessary, but if it would be there, it could still be provided by private companies, but maybe the government should advise a flat rate in order to prevent it being too costly. So I think my only problem is that the private companies might make it too expensive.
Yeah, that's indeed one thing you can see that case in Dakota County. You have on one hand a torrent system, and on the other hand, in the same county, you have these. But the banks insist that in both cases you need a policy, so they even don't trust their torrent system. Yeah, I think this also might be something from your political point of view. What do you think? Should the public sector invest in upgrading the system, or you say, no, okay, no, I'm very liberal. It's not a role for the government. It's a role for the private sector. Leave it to the market. The market wants a title insurance. Okay, then title insurance will solve it. Before the break, of course, we have had that small discussion here about doubling, and I think there is indeed the trouble in this. All the title insurance companies are doubling everything. Of course, they boast they are better than government, but is it really the case? And also the costs of maintaining, and also maybe, that you are not going to invest in your existing system. And it's a bit strange. You see this course, we are talking about improving. Also, the paper you're working on and will finish next week. That's about improving and investing in the existing system to make it more transparent. And we also want to include the public law restrictions. What you see is that the title insurance in the US is not doing that. And they only cover the risk of things you could find in the existing land registry. You're not going to do something extra. So at the moment you stick to title insurance, you're freezing the existing system of land administration. There is no incentive to improve it. There is a nice proposal by Van Loen and Ploeger. There's absolutely nothing for the exam, what we said there, but again, we are not sure is that, why is it not taken up by the European Commission, and we should invent the registration of title that provides a common level of security all over Europe. Of course, there are no the national systems, and they all differ, also from historical reasons. But maybe you could put a plus on it, a European registration title issued by the national land registry, but provides the level of security all over Europe. So you can have this in an optional way and make the German person very happy, and also the bank in the UK. You will understand this was before Brexit. Has been mentioned also in a report by the European Commission, but sadly after 2008, the whole thinking about creating a common real estate market in Europe was off the agenda. So this maybe that's something that will develop, but we don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So that you know what you get. Last week, and also what's the benefit of title registration. It is, in fact, the mirror and then the curtain principle. And you see what you get. That's the mirror. And also the curtain, there is no need to go deeper into the underlying deeds to check. And what you get from the land registry, a piece of paper or that report, maybe in PDF, that is really what it is. You can rely on that.
We all should accept. It's a bit similar to the recent QR code for the vaccination against COVID-19. Every country has its own health system, an own way of vaccination. And then, okay, EU said, okay, just clumsy for all the traveling. We have one system where the National Health Institute is certified that you are properly vaccinated, and then you can travel all over Europe. And the other countries don't have to check if you are having a good vaccination, if you can prove this with your QR code. And maybe the QR code is kind of your own title, but then for health.
Yeah.
Your own title, your own health title.
It's very good that you mentioned this one. You also see one thing that if there is an incentive, they will work on it. But on the other hand, it also fits in digitalization of Europe. Some countries who are faster and far more ahead than other countries. And that may be a pity. That, the people who don't like the EU will always see this as a danger. Suddenly Brussels is doing something. But on the other hand, what we now see is, for instance, Estonia, as we mentioned, it's just an example. Estonia, you saw that in the presentation 2 weeks ago, is really working on that digital agenda. What you see is also that Estonia is very much investing far ahead in other member states. So then there's a difference between the member states and in level of digitalization, also about security. But there's something that the politicians really want. And of course, there are a lot of troubles and all things to solve. This may be a pity, but it could be that there's something to research. And now we step over to something else. That's also from the private company, the private sector. And the blockchain. And we now talked about title insurance, and it's very old-fashioned because that started in the 19th century. But in 2008, someone, and we don't know who he is, and maybe it is a group of people, invented the blockchain and introduced Bitcoin. And not really new. Because it is something that an exchange of information and also a confirmation that the transaction is valid. Now, it was already used in medieval times, and the tunnel stick, 2 parts that fit each other to prove that there is a transaction and also that the payments were made. The other thing is, now we write it down in the book. Every lecture written in bold letters above. You can check the transactions. And based on this, but then with the idea of using computers, they can check if a transaction is valid. It was created for the transfer of Bitcoin, and also because the computers that are checking if the transaction is valid should, everyone should be not going to do this for nothing. So those computers, and therefore they are called the miners, they are paying in Bitcoin. Every time they check the transfer, many computers are checking the same transfer, they're paying in Bitcoin. And that was interesting because they say we don't need the government. Every transaction is no need to have a check by the government. Now, computers, so the private sector also there, they do the work, they do the job. And there's nothing as a central database. And again, all the weeks we are talking with you about land administration, we are always thinking about, somewhere a central database maintained by the land registry. And we put a lot of information in that, and we collect it once, but we can reuse it many times. And of course, our databases can be on different places, but there is one database for one kind of information. No, said those inventors of blockchain, that's really not needed. We don't need a government to check our transactions. We don't need the government to issue something you can pay with. Bitcoin, I still remember that I saw it on the websites, and you'll understand that I'm now, if I had invested $100 at that time, I was not teaching here, or maybe just for fun. I'm doing it not for money. But it became a huge success. Yeah. Growing list of records, that's how I deal with chain. But interesting is that we should keep in mind, and it's also what we heard about Greece, that you should start somewhere. You must know that there is someone who holds the Bitcoin. Genesis block or block 0. So there should be a foundation. But okay, still it works. And yeah, computers check if the transfer from that Bitcoin from A to B, if that is valid. And then you get also something that's mentioned in the paper, the whole idea behind it, and also, of course, because people are not involved, but computers, we need smart contracts. And what is smart contract? Nothing else than if then. If A is the owner of a Bitcoin, and B is paying, then B will become the new owner. Is checked. When we're looking at the transaction in the Netherlands, does this remind you of something? If then, in computer language, who is doing this in a real estate transaction? If A is the owner of a piece of real estate and B is paying, then of course there are more things. Is indeed registered. The deed is signed by. Partly the notary and partly the land registrar, the registrar. They're doing this kind of things. If then. So someone who is very fond about if then, about programming, could say, where are we not going to use this for a transaction about real estate? Not only Bitcoins, but also real estate we can put in the system. The computer can check that if then. So you get rid of the notaries, you get rid of the land registry. And you could also say, no, it's far more better distributed. Yeah? With no central database. No, we do it, we the people do it ourselves. So no worries that the Dutch cadastre will collapse on one day. Maybe they even like it that the Dutch cadastre will collapse because we, the people, offer the security. Our computers are doing that. Now, if you read that paper from Vols, then there are, of course, some concerns. And one of the concerns is also this one. Bitcoin is based on the public blockchain. Everyone can join the group, even you. And you can connect your computer to the network and you can join it and check it. So it's extremely public. everyone can see all the information that's also needed for the public blockchain. There were smart persons who were thinking, okay, the technology is interesting for our transactions, but we don't want it to have public. So we close it off. There is an authority, and in fact that's a bit strange because there is an authority. That will also mean that there's one central server, there's someone in charge. So only the technology is the same. Computers checking the transactions, but that authority decides who is able to join it. So there you can have full privacy. That's interesting, but is that interesting from the point of view from networks? If we want to remove the notary and the registrar, it costs too much money. Is that a public or a private blockchain solution? Now, what's the problem with the public blockchain? Everyone is able to access all information. I gave a lecture and want to ask about it. We're talking about information in land administration. Is all information should it be open for everyone? I've been thinking about you and me. Not a company, but the person being alive. I find indeed, I find my date of birth. For instance, what is that information? Date of birth of myself. I can tell you 30th of March 1965. I've nothing to hide, but it's now online. Recorded. Yeah, it's recorded, but okay, I don't care. But it means I don't care about what I expect privacy is, data protection. So there's a problem with the public blockchain. If everyone can see that information that's stored in the blockchain, because that gives a guarantee that all the transactions are valid, and this one is also the one in the past. That chain, public blockchain is I cannot use. Private blockchain, is that the solution? You put the land registry, the registrar in charge, and the registrar says, now, okay, it's my system, and I decide who's going to check it. Does that fit the whole idea of public registers? Yes, indeed. It's not transparent enough. It's absolutely not transparent. So that also gives problems. That's not what we want with the system of land administration. Just keep all the information for ourselves. And you need permission to enter. But all smart guys came up, girls, with the idea of a mixed blockchain. So not everyone can join and say, oh, I'm going to check the transactions. So that's a limited group of computers, but I can provide people the transparency we can allow them and they need. So that is called the mixed blockchain. So it's still the same technology, but on one hand, open, like actual system of land administration at the moment, and other parts of the information is closed to a limited group of people. But now the question is, why blockchain? It's really interesting. Of course, you can say now if and then, so we can do it. It's technically possible. We can just do it, but that is not our approach. Like, you should think, why should we do it? Is there any benefit in it? I have two examples. and you will see that both are different approaches. In my first lecture, I think, I gave a map with India, and you see that in several states in India, each state is responsible for the land registry. So they don't have a national system, but it's per state. So again, it's a difficult country. And when I look in the Indian newspapers, the internet, then you see that this state, Andhra Pradesh, wants to adopt blockchain. And now you should know that Andhra Pradesh is a system with torrents. It's from the English Times, from before 1947. So they kept that. You would say torrent system, excellent. No. One of the problems out there is corruption. An example they give about the benefits of a blockchain is that you will be informed that someone wants to transfer your property, while you don't know anything about it. And it seems that that is a problem at the moment with practice in Andhra Pradesh, that there are guys who get a lot of money and then change the computer the name of the owner. So the person who gave you the money gets a nice paper stating that he's the owner and goes to the bank, etc., etc. Now, you will understand. That's just ordinary fraud. So why do they want to introduce blockchain? So saying, we're going to leave it to computers, you will be informed if something according to the computers is happening, and the computer will check if there will be a transaction, so all the if-thens. Now, that's to combat corruption. So, from the typology, the torrent system, excellent. In practice, they have problems with corruption, so they want to solve this. So, not to improve the system, maybe there's also no need to improve it because it was in the state guarantee, but the underlying practice was not working. And they wanted to try this in, because Andhra Pradesh is big goal, they want to build a new capital. This interesting thing is a 3D model. You would think it's from a computer. Computer 3D model where they printed it. I don't know, is it common to print your 3D model and to make it physical again?
It happens.
It happens. This is an example. But you see what the challenges are big. They want to build a new town on existing land, of course. And how they're going to do this? By an idea of land pooling. So existing owners are transferring their ownership to land to government, and then after the redevelopment, they will get land back. A simple test or information in our lecture of last week. Say I have a piece of land. Will I get the same piece of land back? This idea of land pooling or not? Because the government is changing the land use plan. I want apartments on it. I don't think that the idea behind land pooling is. Item nice slide. Farmland and land with an apartment block on it, a high rise. All because the land use plan changed. What happens when you use the land use plan from farmland to buildings, high rises? What's the influence on the land value?
Increases?
In the Netherlands from €7 per square meter to 700. And it will also happen in India. So the idea of land pooling is that they're paying back in land, but you get less land back because the land value increased. Now, that's great. So we have a new capital, existing owners are happy. Instead of farming, now they're owning an apartment block, so benefit of rent and sell the apartment, there was only one problem, yeah, because of that corruption, but also title deeds that disappeared. And when there is nothing on paper, it's still very much on paper, and you have nothing to prove that you are the real owner, you cannot sell it. You cannot sell it to the government. So the government plans will not happen. So the whole idea is that they will introduce the blockchain for this. But if you will now look at this very critical, because knowledge our problems, is then blockchain as such the solution?
No,
No, yes, give the answer, please.
no, it's not a solution
Yeah,
because it's basically, it only transfers the share. It doesn't give any guarantee about whether the registered titles are really owned by the person, are really the
Yeah.
owners.
yeah.
No guarantee.
No guarantee. You should start somewhere. Genesis block, the block 0. You must start somewhere. So I don't know if this is really the solution. It is nice for in the future. Of course, it's very modern and indeed it combats corruption. But first of all, before you start off, you should check if the owner is really the owner. And that's also when you change from a registration of deeds to title registration, there is somewhere a transfer that you should really check, is the person who claims to be owner the real owner? And then you can start off with your new system. Yeah. That's also what happened in England and Wales. In 1925 they introduced the registration of title, but there are still a lot of lands around based on the old system. So before you can start off with your registration of title for a certain plot, yeah, there should be some investigation. That is what the government is doing. So as such, sounds very nice, but keep in mind, you cannot just change not good working system by introducing a new technology.
But will the future be a combination then?
I think that the reason that they start in that area is really because that's new. And yeah, that's from the Dutch perspective, it's a bit funny. We started, of course, in Lelystad and Almere in the Flevoland, but the Dutch don't want to change their system, and here they just want to make progress. This at the moment is, I think, nothing more than a small village and a lot of farmlands. So there's really the opportunity to start over new and also to experiment.
Okay.
But okay, this was Andhra Pradesh. Our real agenda is clear. Now Sweden. Also nice messages on the internet. Pioneer, blockchain, Europe. And yeah, it is interesting. And also the focus on the private companies. So it seems that the National Land Registry, I think you know how to transfer landmetriet. Okay, landmetriet. Now you see here something like landmeting in Dutch. Landmetriet is the National Land Registry of Sweden. And actually they have a very interesting system because to make it very simple, how do we transfer real estate in Sweden? It's like transferring a car. You fill in forms, you hand it over, and you store it. I'm not making it too simple, I hope, but it's something like that. But also there, we looked at the private sector involved. The real estate agents are very important. What the real estate agents do is really checking what in the Netherlands the notary is doing. Identity, how it's about the rights, restrictions, and responsibilities. Therefore, the land registry is also complaining a bit that we are involved in the whole process, only in the final stage. And according to the reports, it takes months. I'm not completely sure if that, and also when in the Netherlands you want to get a mortgage, it also takes months for the mortgage bank is okay with your application and things like that. So I think it is a bit, maybe from Swedish. In any case, the Swedish wanted more faster and also get rid of paper. And this is really astonishing. 10% of the applications are refused. That's from a Dutch perspective, incredible. So 10% of the people fill in the forms incorrect or are fraudsters or there's something else wrong. So that clogs up the whole system. And if you want information, it also takes a lot of time. So they want to make a big step and introduce maybe the blockchain. So that is the background of those nice stories you can read. And why? First of all, they want to make it digital. Now, remember, the Dutch did this without going changing to the blockchain. So you can also make your existing system digital. Why not? Why should that form be handed in paper or be scanned? Cost saving, I don't know where that's really based on, but in any case, the assumption is that it will save 100 million per year. Speed up the transactions. Also, I think because making it digital, so using blockchain technology. Improve trust, you will understand it. It's more secure, is also more transparent, and make less mistakes. But then you see that there is something interesting, and that was a discussion we had about public and private. In fact, we cannot work with public or private blockchain. We should have a mixed blockchain, but someone must be in charge, and that is still existing networks. So actually, what I think that they are doing is using technology, but not every computer in the world can join this. It's decided by management to make the existing system more fluid. Now the Dutch must remember that the paper on the blockchain is written by the Dutch, so False is a bit critical about this, of course, because in the Netherlands we make these steps. The only thing we didn't do is that you have still to sign in the Netherlands, but also in Sweden, with a real signature. So we cannot have a digital deed. Now it should still be on paper. That seems to be, as far as I could find, also the bottleneck, according to my sources, for introducing blockchain on a large scale. So they only had a pilot project. But it's interesting to see that the approach from Andhra Pradesh and Sweden is completely different. It's not really to combat here corruption, because the system does work, but to make it easier and to digitalize and make use of modern techniques. But you could wonder if really a step to blockchain is really needed. Okay, any questions about this? Because our time is.
I saw in the last slide,
Yeah.
I saw that the blockchain is stored by other actors. Does it mean that the same data is stored multiple times?
Yeah, I think that will be the case, but it's also, in fact, if you use the blockchain, also in the mixed blockchain, I think then you will have a kind of distributed system.
No, but the idea that data is stored many times, I mean, is it also, can they do it? Because, I mean, isn't only the land registry authorized, for example? Are the other parties?
I think this refers to the checking phase, so that if then.
Okay.
So therefore, it is only limited to the existing actors in the system. So they're not going to open it up. So the privacy concern
Okay.
is not really a problem. So the people who did this information at the moment, it is still the work on paper. So the real estate agents and the banks will remain the same.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So
I
that's
see.
also my concerns about this. So telling you it's going to switch over to blockchain, actually you're using the technology to change your existing system to a digital system.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The data-driven city. I have to finish my lecture. Only thing is that yeah. Oh yeah, maybe tomorrow. Okay, I will have a small talk about this one to introduce this. It is not really part of the exam, but it is a link between 1009 and the whole subject 5080. So ethics of the data-driven city, and of course there is a connection because of that changing to digital, but also that the city is now really generating a lot of data. For instance, also with find it always the best example, our personal tracking device, who's all the time sending information where we are, what we're doing, what apps we use, what we are thinking about. So tomorrow I will have a very short introduction about this, just to make you aware. So it's simply awareness talk, aware about the things that are coming to us, and will also, I think, affect our whole thinking about land administration. Okay, any questions? Then I will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow, oh yeah, there is one question we have. Because tomorrow we have also two guests who want to see if geomatics is really the best